Hey, I'm Brian Van, SportbikeTrackHere.com, and today we're going to show you how to change the coolant on your Yamaha R7. Okay, so this video is going to be appropriate for someone who wants to change their coolant for maintenance, or let's say you've decided to hit the track. First thing you do if you're going to take your bike to the track is you want to research what requirements the organization you plan on riding with has in terms of coolant. The last thing you want to do is show up at the track and have to drain and fill your coolant, right? No fun for anybody. Do your research and your preparation up front. That way you show up and have a nice, smooth day. For racetrack coolant, like for example at Moto America, on our Moto America race bikes, their requirement is water. You can use water with water, or water and only water. Basically water. That's what I put in this bike just to keep it symmetrical. We use distilled water in the race bikes. I've got it in here. Most people are probably going to use a compound like engine ice or water wetter. Once again, double check with the organization you plan on riding with and see what they allow. Either one of the other two that I mentioned are typically a little bit better than the distilled water. They offer some type of freeze protection and also offer a little bit of corrosion protection and lubrication for the water pump, which are both a benefit. Up next, we're going to show you the steps it takes to drain the coolant, refill the coolant, and most importantly, get the air out of the cooling system before you run the bike. Okay, let's go ahead and jump right into our coolant change. What do we need to do here, right? What are we going to run? There's a lot of different options. You go into the racetrack. I want you to check with your organization, either your racing organization or your track day organization, and find out what substances they are going to allow you to use, what products they're going to allow you to use in your cooling system. As an example, you go to Moto America, you get to use water. You can use water with water, or water and water, or just plain water, nothing else. So we use distilled water in all the bikes that we take to Moto America. When you go to different track day companies, right, like our friends at STT, you can use things like engine ice, water wetter, or just plain water. Do your research there, make sure you're going to put the right stuff in. Use this video as a reference to make sure that you've got your system completely free of air, which is going to be one of the keys, man. You get a big air pocket in that thing, you run into some overheating issues. Every bike is different. I have not yet done the R7. What I'm going to do during this project is I'm going to completely drain, flush, and fill the system. I'm also going to take the time to go in there and remove the radiator fan. Now, we're going to go ahead and position the drain pan under the low point in the system, which is over on this side. Got a 2.5 T-handle. There's actually a lock on this radiator cap. Kind of cool. Take that off. Come over here. Right here on this lower pipe, it's an 8mm hex. And wait for that to drain completely. Okay, we drained it, we flushed it with a little bit of distilled water. Now let's go ahead and we'll pull the radiator off so we can get our radiator fan off. Been itching to use this thing, my new Motion Pro hose tool. For the first removal, those hoses can really be cooked on there. Let's try that. Overflow hose off, and see if we've got this loose enough here. We do. Have your drain pan kind of handy. Probably plug this up now while we're doing this. Just make a giant mess. So here you kind of have some options. You could pull your upper hose, or you could try and squeeze your radiator fan removal without pulling off the upper hose. I think we can facilitate that. Let's go over to the other side and look for the plug. Hopefully that's not too far back. Radiator fan connector, cooling fan connector. Grab your harness. You're going to trace it back. It's right here underneath this support. You need to push up on the end of the connector, and we'll kind of show you this when we get it off. To release the clip, slide right out. You can see it's right here on the bottom. Just need to compress it like so. That'll allow you to slide it towards the front of the bike. And then we need to get the fasteners that are holding the cooling fan on, and this is where, you know, you can decide what you want to do. If you want to pull your radiator off and flush it out more, you could do that. You'd have to pull the upper hose to facilitate that part, or you could just go ahead and get a ratchet. For the purpose of what we're doing right now, and I would say for most, this is going to be plenty flushed out. We had a radiator guard to install, and unfortunately it will not fit with the OEM shrouds that we still have installed. So we're not going to be able to run one for the first ride. Not super worried about that. One ride without is a-okay. Third and final bolt. I want to kind of get behind here too, and I want to hold the fan so it's not just banging against the radiator core. You want to try and really minimize any damage to the fins on the radiator. The more those get compressed or the gaps close, the less efficient they are at cooling. So in this case, there's plenty of room to do this the way we're doing it. If you don't want to do it that way, just go ahead and take the radiator right off the bike. We're pretty close to that right now. Save the fasteners. And these are also some really good J-nuts that they use. So you'll find these can be handy with different mods. We're going to slide all these off and keep them in our spare bolt bin. And there isn't one on the top. There is actually into the top radiator tank. There's a boss that is threaded, so there is no J-nut up there. So now let's go ahead and carefully pull our radiator back over. You got two mounting points that it slides over. There's a rubber grommet, and then you have your fastener over here. You want to make sure that you're over both of those, and then push inward. Slide the radiator back until it's fully seated on the hose. Put your radiator hose clamp back into position. Got your mounting bolt back here. Next up, you're going to want to pull off the overflow jug. That's on the other side of the bike. You definitely want to make sure that you've got this cleaned out so that when you go to tech at whatever org you're riding with, that it's very clear that you have an approved substance in here. Otherwise, you're going to have to go and do a service to it before you can ride. So when we come back, we're going to have this all cleaned out and we'll begin refilling the coolant. Okay, you can see we've got the overflow bottle is reinstalled. I filled it to basically the low mark with our distilled water. That's the material that we're going to use right now for coolant, okay? And we can go back over to the other side. I've already filled the radiator. We've let it sit for a couple of minutes, okay? One of the things that I like to begin with, right, and there's a couple of tricks that I use to get the air out of the system, which is key. When you have a low point, hear that? I don't know if you guys heard all that gurgling or not. When I opened this, that was air, right, making its way through the system. And let's see if we get any air bubbles down here. So we're going to let that run just a little bit, or a lot of it. Get that threaded back in, and then we'll grab some more distilled water, top the radiator off. Sometimes it's kind of tricky to get that thing back in there, so I got to grab another gallon, we'll fill this up, and I'll show you how we're going to bleed this. Okay, now you want to palpate these hoses. Fill the system a little bit more. In this situation too, gravity is definitely your friend. By just letting it sit for a while, a lot of the air bubbles will kind of work their way out. Lower the upper hose. Put some more water in it. We had some audio problems, so we had to kind of revisit. My mic came unplugged, damn it. We had to revisit some of this, and it's unfortunate because some of the footage that we had, right, was really good. There was an early spot where I think actually he had walked away to check the audio, and I palpated one of the hoses, and there was a huge air pocket that came out of it. That step I'm showing you right there, that's really important, right? That kind of helps to purge the air out of the system. you can actually see the level going down. Okay, top this bad boy off. We'll clean it up, we'll start the bike, and we're going to warm it up. Okay, so you can see we've run the bike. The bike's pretty much up to temp, right? You want to get it good and hot, get a good heat cycle on it, let it cool itself down. And then what I'll do is after it's cooled itself down, I'm going to double check my fluid level in the radiator to make sure the coolant is still up. Make sure we haven't used all the coolant that you put in your overflow bottle, okay? Adjust as necessary. And then after your first ride, especially if it's a race bike, it's super easy to do at the racetrack. After your first ride, don't be afraid to pull the cap and just take a quick look and make sure your level is good. Odds are if you follow the procedure that I've showed you, you're not going to have any air pockets. You are going to be good to go. If you have any questions, remember this is universal. You don't have to use distilled water like we did. You could use standard coolant. Say it's been 3-4 years, you just want to change it. Say you're going to the racetrack and you want to use engine ice, which is super popular, or water wetter. This procedure will be appropriate and applicable for any one of those different materials used. If you have any questions, leave those in the comment section of this video. I answer all that stuff myself. I'm always here to make sure you get the same result from your project that we did ours.